New questions about media bias after both CNN and NBC announced plans to make Hillary Clinton movies, one of which will star Diane Lane as the former Secretary of State. So while it's true neither project is being done by the company's news divisions, the appearance of bias could be tough to shake. Howard Kurtz is a Fox News media analyst and joins us with more. Hello.
Hi, Shannon. Well, indeed, the news divisions at both of these networks are worried about the appearance, even though they technically have nothing to do with these two projects. At NBC, for example, which has got the Diane Lane miniseries coming up, which, by the way, starts in 1998, which means it starts in the full flower of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, in which Hillary Clinton will undoubtedly be portrayed as the wrong wife during Bill Clinton's affair with the former intern. Chuck Todd, the political director at NBC, already took to Twitter to say, hey, folks, we have nothing to do with this on the news side. Don't blame us. CNN Films has commissioned a movie that'll air on that network. Again, nothing to do with the news division. Charles Ferguson, Oscar-winning director, will direct that one. He's already directed a movie called The American Occupation of Iraq, which was very critical of the Bush administration. Now, does anybody seriously believe that either of these films is not going to be very glowing and positive toward the former senator, former first lady, former secretary of state? That's why there's a perception problem. And there might even be a legal problem because there are equal time rules, although probably both projects will get on the air before Hillary Clinton probably, allegedly, most undoubtedly becomes a presidential candidate.
All right, we shall see. All right, Howard, if you would stick around, we want to continue having this discussion. Let's also bring into the discussion Leslie Marshall. She is a syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. And Chris Plant is also a radio talk show host. Welcome to all of you. And Chris, I want to start with you. I mean, these aren't coming from the news division. NBC and CNN have made that very clear. So what's the problem?
Well, they can't disassociate themselves with themselves is the problem, I think. If it's CNN Films, then it's CNN. If it's NBC, then it's NBC. They have a news division. They're engaged in political activities. They're advocating. Look, we know what their biases are, and we know what the outcome is going to be, as Howard said. I mean, casting Diane Lane as the lovely Diane Lane as Hillary Clinton is enough of a tip-off as to where this is going to go. You know, personally, I would cast Philip Seymour Hoffman to play Hillary Clinton, but
no,
this is like casting Angelina Jolie to play Monica Lewinsky or something. It's that lets you know where they're going.
Casting decisions aside, Leslie, do you buy the assurances? And even if you know, they do their best to have projects that don't touch the news division and do have a factual overview of Hillary Clinton's life, they're inviting some criticism because there are those who will say, you know, it's just not going to be accurate.
Well, obviously they're inviting criticism, but I do agree a little bit with Howard, a little bit with Chris, but just a little bit.
On the casting?
Howard, I know that you're, yeah, just a little bit. Me on the casting, definitely. And my husband's in love with Diane Lane, so he's going to watch it just for that, Chris. But I have to tell you, NBC is perceived, I think, by many Americans as left-leaning, and they have entertainment and news. I think, honestly, the real identity problem here, at least in my opinion, is CNN. I mean, since the Boston bombings, their ratings have come up. They definitely have been looked at again by Americans as a news network. For them to have a film division now, look who's running the network now, right? And to have a story about Hillary, this is not going to weigh in. I do agree with the guys that Hillary Rodham Clinton is going to be the Democratic candidate. And Howard, if you want equal time and you're going to put on a mini-series about Paul Ryan, I'm sorry, but I think I would fall asleep, as many Americans would.
Well,
the reason this might work is she's a polarizing figure. If people love her, they'll watch it. If people hate her, they won't watch it unless they want to be reminded of Nannygate, Travelgate, Whitewater.
And Howard,
we don't want to put you to... Go ahead.
Howard, I mean, I have not heard of any potential miniseries on Paul Ryan, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, any of those guys.
And I think that's a very fair point. I do think it is unfair. If you're working as a reporter for CNN, you have absolutely nothing to do with this, but there is that perception problem. And everybody knows Hollywood, quote, Hollywood, loves Hillary Rodham Clinton. But I don't see 3 years before a presidential election anything in the works on Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or any of the other names that you mentioned. So there is this view, it feeds the narrative that a lot of people already have, that Hillary has this sort of special status both in the culture and in the media culture. And if there is no film on any of the prospective Republican presidential candidates, then I think that does kind of tilt the scale.
All right, Chris, we understand at least one of these projects is only going to start, it's not going to include the first 50 years of former Senator Clinton's life, a lot of important stuff happened then, but we know it's going to start after that point. Do you think they get it to Benghazi? I mean, it's been such a U.S. ambassador died on her watch as Secretary of State. Is it going to be addressed? Is there a way to address it that in some way portrays her in a positive light, that she did what she could?
Well, of course. I mean, that's the value of propaganda. And of course, she's going to be the innocent victim, the heroic figure. She's already been declared one of our greatest secretaries of state ever, with no accomplishments to her name, quite literally a secretary of state, other than the Benghazi cover-up. So, yeah, of course, it's going to paint her as, you know, the person who tried to save them and you know, worked late into the night. That 3 a.m. phone call came and Hillary wasn't there. But this is a whitewash before you begin. And on the CNN piece, Charles Ferguson, as Howard mentioned, is famous for 2 films. One is a hatchet job on the Bush administration and the Iraq War. The other is a hatchet job on Wall Street and capitalism that he did with Matt Damon. Those are his credentials. So CNN choosing him lets you know where they're going. NBC choosing Diane Lane lets you know where they're going. This is propaganda of the first order, and honestly, we should be bothered by it as Americans. We have one party in this country that gets really great treatment from the mass media, not just the news media, but the entertainment media as well. And it creates a very stilted picture of our politics, to be generous. It's really rather third world, to tell the truth.
Well, Leslie, do you think that the makers of these different projects would actually benefit Hillary Clinton if they did include some of the really tough stuff, if they did include some of the controversial things? I mean, it seems like you couldn't make a movie about any politician's life without a little bit of controversy in there.
Well, true, but I don't think it's going to help her at all. Quite frankly, networks are doing this. I mean, you can kiss a politician's butt only so far. At the end of the day, you got to get ratings and you got to make money. I mean, these are businesses. Come on, Chris. And quite frankly, I'd be willing to bet. And if you asked Hillary, she wouldn't want these to air. The people that are going to watch it have their opinion of her already. This is not going to affect whether they would vote for her or not as president. And at the end of the day, her life is a heck of a lot more exciting than any of the guys that are probably going to run eventually and be the nominee on the Republican side up against her. So I do think that they have to address these issues. Then again, a lot of the people, including all of us, don't know everything. We don't know what went through her mind when she found out about Monica. And honestly, if I were her, to revisit that, to revisit Monica, to revisit the death of a good friend, Vince Foster, and a very good friend and colleague, Ambassador Chris Stevens, is painful. So I honestly don't think it's doing anything but perhaps helping the network gain some support from people that already like the former Secretary of State.
And
Howard,
in fairness, go ahead, Shannon,
we've all talked about the fact that Hillary does, or Hollywood does love the Clintons. They make no secret of that. They have very strong relationships there. Do you think that the Clintons participate in any of these projects?
Well, I don't say that they're participating in these particular 2 projects. I don't think Hillary gets a vote. And I do want to say, in fairness, we are sitting here critiquing 2 movies that haven't been made yet, so I'm willing to reserve some judgment on this matter. But there is a cozy relationship between the Clintons and now former President Bill Clinton in his role as elder statesman and the Hollywood/artistic community. This is just going to further that narrative. Again, I don't think it's fair to blame the news divisions, but it is awfully coincidental that both of these decisions were announced within a week of each other.
All right, Howard, Chris, Leslie, when they come out, to be fair and balanced, let's have a hosting party. I will bring the popcorn. You guys can bring other assorted snacks. Deal?
I'm there.
All right.
I'll bring cocktails, not snacks.
Yeah, right.
Even better. Maybe we'll come up with a drinking game for the movies in particular. All right, gentlemen, lady.
Hey,
thank
you like the movie better, right?
Maybe. Thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, making